What's up everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. Almeria is gone, wiped off of the exiled lands, never to be seen again unless a modder somehow decides to bring it back. I don't know, but as of today's update, it is totally gone on official servers and your solo games. There's a lot to cover in this update. I'm not going to go through absolutely everything that has been fixed in this update. I'm going to give you my highlights, talk a little bit about how I feel the update and the state of the game is and the direction that we're going. So like I said, the Stygian Legion has abandoned their strongholds within the exiled lands, and the dogs of the desert have reclaimed the ruins of Almeria. You can still enter the cave to go to the Jebel Sag Shrine, and I'm sure that is much easier now than it was before, so engaging with the sacred hunt and getting that specific blood to get your better version of that final boss should be much easier now. In addition to this update, you'll find that the Sacred Hunt is active again with what appears to be the same reward. So if you've been saving up for any of this, you can now go back and purchase those items. I highly recommend always saving your bestial fangs, and then you don't have to just rush all the time to try to buy the things that you want. You can save those up over multiple periods of this event coming out. That way it doesn't feel like a super rush to get these items. And an unrelated thought to the patch notes is that this now makes Sipta an even more unique experience because that is the only map that actually still has destructible bases. They haven't said whether they're going to remove those or not. I don't think those bases were so large that they warranted removal because of performance issues. So it's likely that we see those remain on the Isle of Sipta, and it'll be interesting to see if they decide to bring something smaller maybe to the exiled lands, since the idea is actually still there, and this is something that is only found on the Isle of Sipta now. There is one singular addition to Conan Exiles that came with this patch, and it happens to be a compass that you can craft. You unlock the Wayfinder knowledge, learn that, and then you will be able to craft the compass, and you'll quote-unquote never get lost again. However, this is an item that you have to keep in your inventory in order to display a new compass icon on your HUD. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this. I mentioned it in a previous video that I feel like this is more than they needed to do. They could have just added the icon onto your hotbar. They could have made it so it was a toggle in the menu if people didn't want it, but I feel like keeping something in your inventory is just a little bit strange for something that just adds an icon to your UI. Now, of course, patch notes are linked in the description of this video if you want to read them for yourself, because I am going to skip quite a lot of things that are listed in these patch notes. It's just like this crash fix, this bug fix, this thing, that thing, a lot of audio fixes. So I'm going to skip over a lot of it, go over and read it all. But for companions, they fixed Lu Fei being practically immortal in PvP. I showed you guys that right here on the channel early on, so that has been fixed, or at least they've made an attempt to fix it. They increased the chances for random spawns for the elite boar for Freya's hunt. They fixed some typos in Freya's questline dialogue and Lu Fei's ability descriptions. They added a cooldown for Lu Fei's ability, Phantasmal Simulacrum. I think that is a really good change because it was like, that was the go-to. He seemed like he was always casting that, so it's good to see that they've added that cooldown. Now we'll have to dive in, do a little bit of testing with the followers. I didn't see anywhere in here where they fixed where people are getting stuck in those quest lines, so hopefully that is on schedule for a future update where they can fix those issues where people are literally unable to complete those quest lines. Under living settlements, probably the best thing that you're going to hear today is they added a lock unlock function for doors to exclude the use by thralls. So your thralls will no longer be able to use or even see a door that is locked. This is great in PvP. It's also great for those of you that have taverns and you don't want your thralls hanging out in those taverns. You can now lock those doors to them and they can no longer enter your tavern. And then there's some other bug fixes along with this for living settlements, like thralls should no longer get stuck in chairs when they're too close to a table. There is a ton of stuff listed under building fixes. There's a few things listed under the journeys, so if you've been stuck in a journey, you may now actually get to complete that. There's quite a bit jam-packed into quality of life changes. I'm going to cover a few of those here real quick. So they adjusted spear attacks so that the hitbox detection happens 1 frame earlier. Thralls and NPCs should now be able to handle dual axe wielding properly and not just do one attack at a time. Bearer crates have been updated to drop a more varied loot pool, so it'll be interesting to see what all loot comes in those. Let me know in the comment section if that's a video you'd like to see, where I just open a bunch of bearer packs to see what kind of things we're getting out of them. The Winged Death now has a 100% chance of dropping a legendary on death. So this is kind of crazy, and honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about all of the mini bosses or all of the bosses that are in the Unnamed City having a 100% chance to drop a legendary. Now, some of their loot pools are quite large, so it's nice to kind of roll through and get a chance at your weapon. However, I just feel like those enemies aren't uber difficult where other ones are in the world, and other ones don't guarantee a drop where everything in the Unnamed City does guarantee a drop now. And I want to know what you guys think about that. Is going in the Unnamed City and being guaranteed a legendary weapon drop a good thing in your mind when that doesn't happen anywhere else in the game? Or would you prefer if it was more of a lottery system where dice rolled and possibly you got a legendary item out of it? Moving down to another big ticket item, they've had a stamina revamp. Now, this is not going to be exactly like it was prior to the last stamina revamp. Again, they continue to try to find that balance point for stamina. So essentially what's happened, they reduce stamina cost of attacks by 50%. This keeps the balance of relative value from weapon to weapon, keeping them feeling different from one another, and also allows you to perform full combos with even two-handed weapons with only 100 stamina. So hopefully this is a change that we can all get behind. Hopefully it feels good and intuitive in game, and we're not in a situation where it's like, oh, I swung my weapon twice and now I'm out of stamina and I just have to walk around so that I can regen stamina and then get back in the fight. Oh, stamina, don't go away. And they go on to say, with the reduced stamina cost of attacks, we can be more gentle with stamina regeneration again. We've returned stamina regen time to its previous timing and reinstated the exhausted state that occurs when your stamina is depleted. Now, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the fact that they've reverted one side of it all the way back to the way it was before, but on the side that is beneficial to the player, they've only reduced that by about 50%. I'm going to have to play for some time to see if this feels really good or not. I'm not sure at this point in time, but we have those stamina changes. It's your job, it's my job to go out there, try it out, and give feedback based on our experience. They go into UI and text fixes. I'm not going to cover a whole lot of that, although I did notice something that was a bit of a reoccurrence in these patch notes. Under UI and bug fixes, it talks about greater saber-tooth skins are now correctly named greater. And if we scroll back up to quality of life changes, they actually have a line in there about the Pictus saber-tooth now deals more damage, both normal and alpha variants. So it looks like they've been working a little bit in the background on some pets and animals, the saber-tooth obviously being listed twice here, but there's a possibility that we may see some tweaks coming to animals. I know a lot of you are animal lovers and would like to see them buffed to the point where they're maybe on par with some of your favorite thralls. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen or not, but the fact that I saw Sabertooth in there twice was interesting to me, and I just wanted to bring it up. And then there's a bunch of audio fixes, things that didn't have the right sounds attached to them. You can go through and read through those if you'd like. Some information about modding and how they've changed things in the dev kit. Hopefully that improves the modder's experience in certain scenarios. Down to exploits, it should no longer be possible for an exile to have 30 resurrected corpses following them. That's been something that's been in game for quite some time, so it's good to see that hopefully that has been solved. Stable fence gate frame pillars can no longer be stacked. This is one of those, I think, floating base things, so you're no longer able to stack those, and that should alleviate some of the floating base issues. It says they fixed an issue with the Rage Hammer. I have no idea what the Rage Hammer was or was not doing, but that should be fixed at this point. Under Miscellaneous, something that popped out to me was that they disabled tavern visitors teleporting when no path is available, which I'm not sure if that means they won't teleport into your tavern or they won't teleport out of your tavern. I'm just not 100% sure what they're trying to solve there. Maybe bases that are not accessible via a path or what they're targeting here for, say, PvP or something like that, but that has been disabled. For those of you that went out and chased a female votary of Skelos Sherpa, the Skelos bearer number 3, you're likely to log in and see their hit points have been drastically reduced, and they should no longer have above average HP even after they're leveled. They also fixed an issue where if you were killed by being under mesh, you could permanently lose collision. That's interesting, but good that it's being fixed. And I'm sure that they're still focused on and working on under mesh issues in the game. The Burrow King is no longer going to use his fists and fight you barehanded. That's kind of a bummer because it was kind of funny to go in there and fisticuffs him, but at least you'll feel like you are actually in a fight with this guy now and not playing at air punching. They have reduced the XP gain from crafting stone golem parts and then from killing purge golems and Karak golems. So you aren't going to be able to level your thrall up really quickly with those methods anymore. It may still be rather fast, but it's not going to feel as fast as it did before. The armor rebalance kits should no longer drop from certain NPCs as they were not fully implemented. So if you were one of the lucky ones or maybe unlucky ones to have gotten one of these, that should no longer be happening going forward. I'm not sure if they'll delete the ones that have already dropped. Usually they leave that stuff in the game, but you should not see those dropping anymore. And that's it for the patch notes. I know I said I jumped over a bunch of stuff that's in here. I do recommend going and reading it all or skimming through it at least to see what else has changed. But those are kind of the big ticket items that I covered in this video. There are other things in here that you possibly wouldn't even notice when playing, whether it was fixed or not fixed or adjusted. But I really like what they're doing, moving along this path, getting those things refined and fixed up. And I'm hoping that we see another iteration or two of this kind of behavior where it's mainly all fixes. Then once we get to a point where we feel like the game is in a really polished state, then I'm hoping to see them shift towards bringing us new content again. You let me know in the comment section below, what are you expecting from Funcom and Conan Exiles in the future? I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't forget to whack the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content. And if you don't want to be out of whack, there's another video on the screen right now that you can click to support more of my content.